Welcome to the Sheets on Top podcast. This is a place where we talk to inspiring women and share their stories. Hi, I'm Jessica.
And I'm Tracy, and we are your hosts. What does it mean to be a woman in today's world? What does success look like? What does it feel like? Is there one definition?
We talk to women entrepreneurs and change makers about their ups and downs, their triumphs and failures, and how they define success.
We believe that every woman has a unique value and a story worth telling, and it's our great joy to share these stories with you.
If you've ever wanted to start a newsletter, or you already have one and want it to grow, you are going to love today's podcast. We are talking to the guru of email marketing, our friend, and She's on Top member, Joanna Track.
This is literally a step-by-step guide on how to create a fantastic newsletter from someone who has done it successfully multiple times herself. Joanna was one of the first entrepreneurs to realize the power of the newsletter. In 2004, she created sweetspot.ca, which was the ultimate destination for Canadian women to stay in the know about what's new and fabulous in their city. SweetSpot grew to over 100,000 subscribers and was eventually sold to Rogers Publishing.
Since then, she's gone on to create Elux, one of the first online shopping experiences, the Good Egg Consulting Company, and she also taught digital marketing at York University. 5 years ago, she launched The Bullet, an online daily news publication that gives you the news highlights. It has over 30,000 loyal followers across Canada, including us.
We love The Bullet. It's the first thing I read when I get up in the morning. And she also recently launched Newsworthy, which creates content and newsletters for other brands.
As you can tell, we are huge fans. So without further ado, here is our conversation with the amazing Joanna Track.
Hi, Joanna.
Hi.
Hi. So nice to see you again. How have you been?
I've been pretty good, all things considered. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Again, all things considered.
I know it's such a relative answer these days.
It really is. It really is.
You feel weird actually saying you're good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have so many amazing things to chat with you about, but we thought today that we would focus on newsletters since you are the newsletter queen. And
I'll take that title. Yeah.
Yes, we'll get you a crown. And so I thought we'd start off by just saying, why are newsletters so important for a brand? I mean, does every company need to have one?
I'm not going to go so far as to say every company, because there are exceptions where it doesn't make sense from their business mix and strategy and what they're trying to accomplish. But I would say most companies can do right and better by having a newsletter strategy and a well-executed newsletter strategy, because lots of companies have them. Not so many of them do it well. I think what's really important, especially these days in a world that is, bombarded by social media and so many different channels to get messages from, is email is literally the only channel that a person has full control over what comes in it. So, in your social media channels, you get things that you didn't sign up for. Even in your actual mailbox at home, you get things you didn't sign up for. Anything, TV, there's always interruptions. But email, you opt in and opt out, and you also decide when you're opening the email. So it's a very controlled environment. So to get someone's attention there is to get a very sort of captive and interested either prospect or audience member.
That's why it's so valuable, right? That
Yeah. I always say, your email database is one of the biggest assets you have. These are people who've put up their hand and said, yes, you can be in touch with me.
Very powerful.
Huge.
Yeah.
When you're working with, now you have your company Newsworthy, where you do crap besides, doing The Bullet, you actually make newsletters for other brands, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So if somebody's starting to say, they want to put a newsletter together, where do they start? Where do you start when you're working with brands? Is it literal to the brand? It's how do you even begin to figure out what kind of content you want to put out?
Yeah. So the first and foremost thing is, what is your business objective? Is this to build awareness of products? Is it knowledge based? If you're I don't know, a chiropractor, it's not like a sell like someone who creates cosmetics, right? You're more in the education side of things than sort of the e-commerce sell side of things. So business objective is first and foremost. And then I say this about everything in marketing and business in general, it's going to cost time, money, or both. So you have to figure out, how much time do you have? Yes, in an ideal world, you might be in a business that could benefit from doing it once a week or every single day. But if you don't have the bandwidth to do it properly, then you're better off doing it, quality over quantity. So figuring those things out from the get-go. And then one of the principles that we always use in our business is we say that every piece of content, not just newsletter, but every piece of content should fulfill one at least of three things. And we call it the 3 E's: to entertain, educate, or enlighten. So, educate, teach me something I didn't know about. Enlighten, like bring awareness to something I didn't even know about. And entertain, like make it either funny or sad or something, but like draw on an emotional heartstring. So if you're not doing any of those, then you kind of have to ask, like, what's in it for anyone who's going to open it and read it? Because what I see too much of is a lot of companies just chest thumping, talking about themselves. And, in the end, that might be of interest to a small group of people for a very short amount of time, but you're not going to keep them engaged or opening or coming back for more if there's nothing in it for them to take away.
I was going to say, I actually love that. That sort of got to my next question because, at She's on Top, we have a newsletter. And when we share some of our content, but we also share movies we've seen and books that we've read and other people's content. And sometimes we go back and forward, like, should we make it more about She's on Top, or is it okay to promote other things? And so you kind of answered my question, but could you, do you have to be specific to your brand and always talk about your own stuff?
No, not at all. And also, I just would like to mention, and you guys didn't make me say this, I love your newsletter. I look forward to it. And I think I emailed you guys that I took up a bunch of your suggestions in the last 1 or 2 newsletters about movies and podcasts, I think. So I have found it personally very valuable. And I think, like in your case, you are doing things that are right on brand, because it's not all about She's on Top, like me, but it's all about your audience and what would be appealing to them. And so, that you have a female audience, that they're busy entrepreneurs. And so you're giving them some sort of lighthearted entertainment to balance out their stressful lives. And I think that is bang on. And it's a give. It's not just a take. The takes are listen to our podcast, come to our event. The gives are, hey, you might find this interesting. We suggest this for a lot of clients. They might say have a feature article in their own newsletter about something related to their business. Like, we work with some lawyers, we work with a real estate agent. Of course, they're trying to get people to like click and call and get information. But we also have them send interesting articles from the industry that they didn't write, that they just personally found valuable. So they're doing a filtering, like they're doing a service to their reader by providing them that information and not asking for an immediate return.
Makes sense. And how important is branding versus content? Once you've got the content down, does it matter if you've got great content? Does it matter if it's like, you can do it really simply, throw up a picture, write a few lines, or does it make a difference to have, strong graphics? What's your sort of, where do you come down on that?
Yeah. So, I say branding is everything, but branding doesn't mean fancy or full of graphics. Branding means on your brand. So I think, for another newsletter that I really love is Ryan Holiday. He's an author and a business pundit, but he sends out a newsletter, I think it's once a month, with his book recommendations. It's literally text, as if someone, like, he just wrote the email. There's not a single graphic. But it's interesting because I know what it is and I respect his opinion. And it's on brand for him. And so, but as far as sort of best practices, like what we encourage everybody to do is keep it clean and simple. So, I'm not a fan, and I don't think anyone is a fan of reading text on backgrounds. So, you should have most, if not all of your text may be saved for headlines on clean white backgrounds. That's what people want to read. I mean, in the world of email, we are also talking about, we're not sending it to teenagers for the most part who are used to reading everything. Most people are struggling and putting on their glasses. So, putting it on a white background just helps the user experience, keeping it consistent so that people know, like, oh, this is where I find this information in the newsletter. If you change it up all the time, then, people can't form a habit. You guys read the bullets, in the bullet, you know where things can be expected. That doesn't mean you can't change things up here and there, but if you were to just randomly every week, put a brain dump of, whatever came out of your head in whatever order, it's not going to be a great experience for the reader.
That makes sense. Now, is there a certain length that's better? I know we discussed with you once about our newsletter being too long, but is there a perfect length for a newsletter?
Again, it really depends on the industry and what you're trying to achieve. But most people these days, again, a generalization, have ADD.
So true.
I mean, social media ADD, right? Not many people will stick around to keep going. So we like to typically tease people with certain bits and invite them to get more information. So some stuff should be consumable right there on the spot, like a quote or a joke or a list of information. But if it's a 1,000-word article, should it be in the newsletter? I don't think so. First of all, then you're talking about a bigger marketing strategy where you're losing the opportunity for that article to build up search engine optimization and reasons to drive people to your site to get, if you're in the e-commerce business, you want people to come to your site and start converting. So, giving it all away in the email is A, not a great reading experience for a reader. B, it doesn't serve you in the long run. Are there exceptions to this? Yes. If it's an important piece of news about something major going on in your company and you want to make sure that everyone, doesn't miss anything, you should probably, you're not going to, if you're having a major structural change, you're not going to write a paragraph and click here for more.
Okay.
You have to pick your moment, but if it's, general interest, give people the option to either, read on for more or go on to the next thing.
Perfect. Now, once you've done all these amazing things, you've created this wonderful newsletter and it's properly branded and it's the right length. How do you get people to subscribe? How do you grow it? It's got to be the toughest thing. And it feels like it's gotten harder.
It's definitely gotten harder. The world of email, as we all know, has gotten much, much more competitive. Everybody and their brother sends a newsletter. Some people, I feel like, take way too much advantage. I don't want to name names, but there's a number of retail brands who email you multiple times a day. There's only so many times I need to buy socks. You don't need to email me 3 times a day. So that kind of hurts everybody. But so it's from when I started in this world in 2004 until now, it's become much more populated and competitive and more expensive to acquire a subscriber. So back in the day, you could tell your list to refer you. You could post on social media. Well, it was just starting social media. And you could build a pretty healthy audience. Now you're competing against within social media, unless you pay, they push you down. So you have to pay for those clicks. And if you want to, put your own sponsored content somewhere else to drive, you're paying for these things. They're sort of limited. There is free and there's referrals are always your best because those people are going to stick with you. If your friend tells you something's good, it's coming from a valid source and you're going to check it out and you may really like it, but it's a more likelihood of you sticking than if you saw contests or, whatever other reason that might have signed you up. So, definitely, it's more of a long game for building an email list. And then it goes back to your business objectives. Say you, I'll go back to the chiropractor example. A chiropractor is not looking to probably create 100,000 subscriber list. They want to have all their clients on there. And maybe if it turns into some more new clients because they wrote an interesting article and someone shared it, then that's a win for them. but for them, it's probably a marketing tool to remind people to come back or to come back more often and take care of their health. So they don't need so much to focus on growing the list as they do on the consistency and quality of the content. I mean, everyone should be concerned with that. Whereas someone like myself or yourselves, where growing the list is how you monetize your business, then you need to invest more time and money in actually growing the audience.
Wow, that's actually, really, because we really great information, because we're, trying to grow our list. We have a great open rate, but we find it's, hard to get those new subscribers. So, I mean, should you pay? And how much should you pay? Can you answer that question? Like, how much should you pay to get these subscribers?
So again, I'm always feel like I'm repeating myself, but it goes back to your business model. And so say, I'm just making dollars up. So if anyone's testing me on this and it's not right, but if you spend $5 to acquire somebody, but in the end, you're going to make $100 off them, then sure, spend $5. But if you're going to spend $5 to make $6, it's probably not going to work out in the long run, or, whatever. But the biggest piece of advice I can give on that is the testing. The good thing about all this paid social media, paid search, all those things is it's all quantifiable. You can take it down to the ROI. You can put $100 in and see what you get out. Now you have to give things time. And I mean, we don't have to be data scientists and get everything statistically significant to the third decimal, but directionally you want to invest enough to know if it's really working or if it was an anomaly. So the best way to secure that without being a data scientist is to give something a fair amount of time, and also take out too many variables. So like, if you change the format too many times, or, change the strategy, like, from, being short bits to more serious, whatever. I mean, I'm just kind of throwing things out there, but it goes back to sort of the basics of what you learned in math and stats, is you got to keep as many variables constant, test it for a bit, see what the ROI is, and then double down on the things that are working.
Are you a woman entrepreneur looking to grow your business?
Would you benefit from being connected with a highly engaged group of women entrepreneurs invested in your success?
Then we'd love you to join our community.
Here you can collaborate, network, cross-promote, and feel supported, whether it's a free expert workshop or one of our fun events like our monthly hikes.
You can find all the details on membership in the notes, or you can go to our website at she'sontop.com. Now, you've had the bullet, how long was it? Like 2 years
Almost
since you launched?
5 years.
Almost 5 years. Oh my God. I swear. It's like, it's pandemic brain. Everything just got morphed.
The 1 year doesn't count. COVID year.
Yes.
So but no, it was August of 2016 that it first published.
So how has it changed? I'm so curious from your initial plan and the way that you thought it would go. Like, you went out there, and how has it morphed and adapted? Because I think that's one of the keys to success, adapting. If you had to adapt the bullet, have you been able to stay on the original plan?
Definitely not on the original plan. So I'm pretty sure in the original plan that said I would have like 300,000 subscribers within 2 years and be making millions of dollars. That didn't happen. And that was when I had the rude awakening of how much more it was going to cost me to acquire subscribers. The other thing is, a lot of the subscribers I built along the way, I did through channels that I also learned a lesson that it was people who weren't really dedicated. So I ended up cleaning a lot of them off. Like there was a time where we were up to 75,000 subscribers, but our open rate was like so low and people weren't opening. And so we cleaned it to like under 30,000. And now in COVID, we didn't spend any money growing it. So we've been holding at sort of this 30,000 number for, over a year, maybe almost close to 2 years, because, we sort of we didn't do anything during the year of COVID to grow it. Mm-hmm. So that was a massive sort of change in reality. And so then the other thing was that because our whole business model is based on monetizing the bullet newsletter, And that world has changed so much with programmatic advertising and just, people buying sponsored content at very low sort of, not doing what we were doing, which is very bespoke, integrated, every client being treated in a customized fashion. We were kind of having feast and famine. Like we would have clients come along who really believed and understood the value of what we did, and we would make a decent amount of money, and then it would dry up because we were competing with, very low cost channels that, it was hard to keep a sustainable revenue model. So about 2 years ago is when we launched Newsworthy. And so that was our pivot to say, okay, the bullet is not going to scale or make us rich as quickly as we had hoped. And we need to find another way to make money, but doing something that we like and that we're good at. And that was when we had this idea to start producing content for other brands. And that's how Newsworthy was born. So it was really diversifying our portfolio. And then ultimately what's happened is the bullet has become our marketing tool to say, we produce this newsletter 7 days a week. We can surely produce whatever you need.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Very cool.
That's very cool. So, is there a number of subscribers that you need to be successful, or for people, not really successful, but for people to advertise? I've seen articles written that you can have maybe only 800 subscribers, but if you've got a huge open rate, you could monetize that. So is there a number that you need? Is it the open rate that's more important or the number of subscribers?
Well, it's a combination, and it's also depends on what your newsletter is about. So again, if you're in a very specific niche, like imagine some sort of, medical specialty that, there is 800 people, but they're like the 800 people in the country who operate in that specialty, and you're trying to reach them to sell them some diagnostic tool, then those 800 people, you could be charging tens of thousands of dollars to get at them. If you're a general interest, something like us, where there are lots of other ways you can reach Canadians, then, having, 100,000 or, more is really like, we're making money and we're at 30,000, but, it really scales based on sort of how niche it is and what you're offering somebody.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think it sounds like it's niche. Depending on your niche, that would make a huge difference to your newsletter and your subscriber list. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting conversation because it's, and you didn't tell us this either, but I love the bullet as well. And the amount of things that I bought from the bullet, because when you guys recommend stuff, I trust you. And it's worked. I have earrings, I have face cream, I have, because you guys do the weekend edition. And I love it. It's like having, a really good girlfriend who's already sourced all the cool stuff, so I don't know. It's interesting, as Tracy said, to see somebody that we admire so much and have this conversation and learn even that it's a struggle for you, right? Or it has been. So what's the future for the bullet? Like, so you don't have that goal anymore. Do you still have that goal of $300,000 or?
Oh, 300,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
I would love it. I would love it. Yeah. And dollars, but I would love it. And I think you just reminded me of another point I wanted to mention, sort of goes in line with the 3 E's that I talked about before. But what you're saying that you love about the bullet, and it's a principle I means so much to me and I work with all my clients on, is authenticity. Like you have to be you. And it shines through. And again, like if you think of other brands besides the bullet that you love, it's the authenticity and the trust, because authenticity leads to trust. So, like if your dermatologist started sending in a newsletter and, every week was talking only about like why you should get Botox because it makes you look better, like you would kind of, you also want to know about like health reasons. Like, what I'm trying to say is you want to be able to trust the person and not feel like they're just trying to sell you something all the time. And authenticity, and just being true to your brand. Another thing that people love about the bullet is like, oh, you guys are so funny and you're sarcastic. And we've had a number of clients come to us and say, we want to work with you because we want to sound like that. And I say, okay, but that might not be what your brand is. Like, just because, you need to be in line with what your brand stands for. And like, say you're talking about something serious, like, I don't think using the bullet tone is going to fly. So You really have to think about what your brand stands for, because in the end, that's what's going to resonate with the audience.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And your tips are fantastic. I had a question here for you, but you could have already answered it. But like, if you had 3 top tips for somebody who's listening to this and wants to start their newsletter, what would those 3 top tips be? Just 3 things they should do to get it off the ground.
Mm-hmm. So, well, one, like I've said a few times, but like literally document what is your objective of this, and always go back to it, because sometimes you get caught up in sort of, you think it's fun or it's funny or whatever, and you forget why you're doing it. And you'll quickly learn that it takes a lot of time. I'm sure you guys have seen. Mm-hmm. And so always go back to what's the business objective of why you're developing a newsletter. The second, like, golden rule that I see so many people fall down is what I said before about these 3 E's. Like, think about the give. What are you giving to people to make it interesting? Like, all I can, get everyone to think about is the newsletters you get that are so bad. And like, just don't be that. Just don't,
Yeah.
Make it interesting to somebody else. Don't just focus on what you want other people to hear. Figure out what they want to hear. And then the third thing is consistency. And I said this earlier, like, if you can't commit to getting it out at that same time every week, then do it once a month. Like, if you just willy-nilly like send out random newsletters when you find the time, it won't be habit forming for your audience. They won't rely on it. Like all the newsletters that you guys love, that I know I love, it becomes appointment reading. You expect it, you look forward to it. And if you can't make that commitment, then there's no point starting, because it's just going to be a disappointment to you and a disappointment to your audience.
That's such a good point. It's been something that we've had to really think about with any content that we put out, because, we're obviously a startup. There's just a few of us, and it's like really thinking before we do something. You can start off so enthusiastically doing something every week, and then it just peters out. So really sort of going, okay, what's our actual bandwidth? How often can we put this out? And like you said, be consistent. So I love that point.
It's also easier to grow organically and less disappointing than going backwards. So like, say, you have these big delusions and you say, I'm going to do a daily newsletter. And then you realize after 2 weeks how hard that is. And so then you scale back. It's a bummer to yourself. It's a bummer to the audience. Whereas to go the other way, just launch with a weekly and then move it up. Like when the Bullet launched, it was Monday to Friday. And that went on for a year or so, and before we added Saturday. And then another year or so before we added Sunday. So, we didn't wake up and start with 7 days a week, and nor did we wake up. I mean, the volume of content that's in there now is much bigger than what we started with, because now we have a bigger team and a better process. And so we grew it organically. We didn't come out of the gate trying to blow our brains out with too much.
Yeah. Well, we're huge fans, as you know. And just before we go, I know that you have some exciting news that you're going to share with our audience. So what is that exciting news?
Oh, yes. Well, by the time you air this, everyone will know that both companies, the Bullet and Newsworthy, have been acquired by Arlene Dickinson. The Arlene Dickinson.
Wow. So exciting.
Yeah. My line is that I've been eaten by a dragon and I've never been happier.
I love
that. As most entrepreneurs or everyone in this world has had pretty tumultuous 2020, and we had our ups and downs, and like everyone sort of fought through it. And towards the end of this year, we found out that she was a big fan of ours, and one thing led to another, and now we're partnering up. And not only will the Bullet Newsworthy continue it exists and prosper, but we're going to be building out some new media platforms in 2021, and that's going to be super exciting.
Wow, that's so amazing. We're definitely going to keep a close eye on everything you do, because we know, as you know, we're like huge fans. And I think we also love that because we're all about women, celebrating women and connecting with women. So that's just fantastic. It just shows you, it's amazing. And you never know. You probably didn't even know she was a fan. And now you're working with her.
No, I mean, the first time I got an email from her, I thought I was being punked. I got a random email one night in response to my blog newsletter. And it just said, I love your blog. I love the bullet. Keep doing what you're doing. And I was like, what just happened? And I mean, I think that's a lesson to everyone. If you work hard on putting out good product, you don't know sometimes who's looking and who the audience is. And it goes back to that consistency, we put that thing out every day for almost 5 years. And someone noticed.
Well, that's fantastic.
Anyway,
yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations. That's exciting. Thank you so much for
you.
Talking with us and all your amazing
pleasure.
Tips about newsletters. We'll put links in the copy notes to the Bullet and Newsworthy. And we just wish you amazing things. And we look forward to having you back when you're working with Arlene Dickinson to hear how it's all going and your new projects.
Yes, absolutely. And same to you guys. I look forward to your newsletter. I need a new reco for some TV watching. So, get on
helping us all get through COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Joanna.
If you enjoyed this podcast, we'd be grateful if you'd take a moment to rate it and write a quick review, because that helps us get found. And of course, we'd love it if you subscribe.
To learn more about us and our amazing community, go to our website and sign up for our newsletter. And you can also follow us on Instagram at she's_on_top.
Thanks for listening.